Alright, I'm going to answer some of your questions, and first up, let's take a look back at my Homemade Movies Hook episode that came out a year ago. Check it out in the link. It's one of my favorite episodes that we did. We actually got the real Rufio to play Rufio in it, so watch the behind the scenes, you can see all about that. But something I guess we didn't really address in the behind the scenes, this is asked by Gianluca Di Tullio Films. How did you get the real Rufio? Well, that is a good question. That was something that Cinefix put together. We were doing something, I think it was for 90s week, so we went around and around on what cool 90s movie should we do, and they had the idea to reach out to Dante Bosco because he had been doing some recent YouTube stuff and getting more involved with social media and thought he just might be into it. So they reached out to him and he was interested. So that was pretty much it. They lined it up. So as long as we had everything prepped and ready to go and knew which day we were shooting, he just showed up, and we put him in our silly homemade Hook outfit, and he had a great time. We all had a great time. It was a really, really fun shoot. So you can see more in the behind the scenes, but that came out a year ago today. The only other thing I'll say about this episode, if you're following the computer saga that I had, was I was still using my kind of broken computer. And, okay, you imagine, like, okay, Rufio's coming here, the real actor, everything's prepped, this is a huge shoot. It's not like one of our friends where something goes wrong or we have to postpone. We can just call him up and be like, hey, can we do it tomorrow instead? It's like, today's the day, we have to do it. Huge shoot day, you gotta get it all done. You know, I've been using the computer for a month or two now, wondering if it was gonna crash ever again. Well, this was the day. It's like the morning, everyone's here, and then Dante Bosco shows up. Oh my gosh, we're taking selfies, we're doing the whole thing, having a lot of fun. But what you don't see on camera is that in here, the computer completely died and will not start up again. So imagine having that on your mind the whole day that you're shooting this. So I just had to block it out, try and enjoy the experience of shooting it and get all the shots that we needed, but knowing, holy crap, the computer's totally dead again. How am I going to edit this? What am I doing with the footage? I have no idea. So that was awful. It's like, I just wish that wasn't part of the story at all. I wish I could just have enjoyed shooting this stuff. Alright, general questions from you guys. So this is kind of a good general question that I get a lot. A few people have asked it. On YouTube, The Red Caleb asks, why did you start making homemade movies on this channel or Cinefix? On Instagram, Jake McQuaid73 asks, what inspired you to do homemade movies? And on Facebook, Cam McFly asked, what caused you to make the Man of Steel video, which was like the first homemade movies episode technically. Did you ever expect it to become this popular? So those are good questions. Basically, the idea of doing this came about as just something fun to do on my channel that I thought could be popular. You've seen sweeted videos before, as you know, that those are when you kind of recreate a movie really low budget and with silly costumes and stuff, but sweeted videos are usually when you kind of just do one long camera shot or a few shots and you just sort of get the general vibe of what's happening. Just like in the movie Be Kind, Rewind, they sort of just like, oh, you're fighting ghosts, and the camera just kind of follows you around. But what I wanted to do was shot-for-shot recreations, so it's kind of a step up from sweeted. So I'm not the first one to do this. People have been doing shot-for-shot recreations online for a long time, especially like, you know, Lego versions of things and stuff like that. But I always felt like I could really do something a little bit different with it or kind of take it up a notch, and so I decided the first one needs to be something huge. And I knew the Man of Steel trailer was going to be coming out, which was going to be a huge, huge franchise and a really popular trailer. So as soon as that trailer came out, the day it came out, I started making that video. And I spent exactly 2 weeks piecing all the shots together and then got that sucker out there. I figured it would be popular, but I kind of like hope that everything I make will be popular, and it never really is. So I did not expect that it would lead to what it became with homemade movies, that's for sure. Yeah, I did the Star Trek Into Darkness trailer, and then that got really big too, and that's what led to homemade movies. So I've explained that all before, so you get the idea. But no, I never expected that it would turn into what it is, which is homemade movies on Cinefix, a totally different channel than my own, and that we would get to do it, not only myself, but other people would get to do it full time for as long as we did, and Ben's still making it. So that's really awesome. Alright, so I hope that answers your questions. Alright, general question from Jack Gordon. If you could meet one famous person, who would it be? Now, are you saying if I could only meet one famous person ever, who would it be? Or which famous person would I like to meet? One of the cool things about working in LA in the entertainment industry is you do get to meet a lot of famous people, so that's actually one of the perks. Somebody who I've never met that I would love to meet would be maybe Jim Carrey. he's awesome. Always been a big fan, so that would be really cool. Alright, so on YouTube, Kyle Talent says, Ben became a huge part of the second season. How did you meet him? In a nutshell, I knew Ben because he was roommates with my friend Hari, who has been in a lot of Homemade Movies episodes and helped actually behind the scenes a lot too with wardrobe. So I'd kind of known her for a little while, and I knew of him through her. So I knew that he was a great editor and also a director and had done some great work on short films himself. So the first time I really used him on Homemade Movies was for a whole day shoot that we did for The Matrix because I knew that he'd be really good to have like just on set, and we had a lot of technical things that had to be accomplished in that, so you can see in the behind the scenes of that all the complicated stuff that went into that, so he was a big help there. I didn't realize that he was so crafty and was good with art in general as well, so that was an unexpected surprise. When my original producer, John O'Brien, went out of town once, I was in the middle of working on the Back to the Future scene and needed someone to take his place for the week, so I hit Ben up to come in for the week and help out with that. And then when he showed up here, it's like, alright, so what do you want to do? He ended up helping me do all of the miniatures for that scene, and it blew my mind, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, like, you make the small clock tower, I'll make the big one, and they look the same, look like they're made by the same person. So that's a huge benefit to having somebody who can make things the same way that I was already making them. So that's how he kind of ended up being more utilized for doing arts and crafts and the props and stuff. Alright, also from Kyle Talent, how did you guys decide on what movies or trailers to do? That's another good question. That is a huge task, actually, because we have to watch through tons and tons of trailers and scenes, and finding the right one is a lot harder than it seems. You know, there's so much kind of criteria that leads into like what makes it a good scene to recreate shot for shot. So, man, I would just sometimes I spend a whole day, if Ben was jamming on working on props and stuff and he knew everything he needed to do, I would just sit here like watching trailers and scenes, trying to whittle it down to like 2 or 3 that we really thought we could do, and then send those to Cinefix, and then they usually say no, and we have to find 3 more. So out of like watching 100, I'd find maybe 2 or 3 that I thought we could really do, you know, and then from there Cinefix would pick the 1 or 2 that they felt were worthy of us doing. So it's not like we could just do any trailer. It seems like, oh, well, you can kind of just do anything because you're just doing cardboard and stuff, but like that's not really the case, because a lot of trailers are so long that yes, each individual shot we could figure something out for, but you can't spend a whole day prepping for one shot that's 1 second long, and then there's like 80 or 90 shots. That just doesn't make sense. That would take 2 months to make. So it's not a matter of can we do it, it's can we do it in a short amount of time. So that's why a lot of the trailers we just couldn't do, and we had to start doing shorter ones. Last question for now, from TP Productions. When you created DustFilms, and why this name? If you work as a real director at projects outside your house, do you also use the name DustFilms or only Dustin McLean? It's an interesting question. DustFilms is something that I started using when I started up my website for all my video production, so I wanted something catchy that was kind of like production soundy. And of course my name is Dustin, so I just went with DustFilms, which is kind of ironic because I've never actually shot with film other than for still photography, but that's different. I've never shot like moving pictures on film. For video production, we use video, not film. I just like the name, kind of sounded catchy. But when we started Homemade Movies, that was such a huge production that all fell under, you know, my umbrella, that I did start an actual company and called it DustFilms. So that's an official company that handled all the production of Homemade Movies, Cinefix being the network, but DustFilms being the production company. In regards to the question of like which name do I use, I wouldn't credit myself as DustFilms. I'm Dustin. But my company is DustFilms. So I would say like, oh, this video I made is like a DustFilms production, but if I'm being credited as I was the editor or as the director, I would just be credited as me, Dustin McLean. Alright, I hope that answers all your questions. Thanks for sending them in, and I don't know if I'm going to be doing more Homemade Movies flashbacks or not. Maybe I'll just answer your general questions, and I've got some other projects I'm going to be working on. So be sure and check out my Oscar special and the behind the scenes, and I'm working on a special breakout video just of the Birdman costume, so I can really elaborate on that. I'm actually working on the costumes more to kind of make it a little bit better and fancier, and then I'm going to release a separate video just for that. So, alright, so be sure and subscribe, follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes pictures, and I'll see you back here soon.